back on. I told you guys I was going to come back on here in a little bit because I wanted to talk about Homelander and specifically like the ending of Homelander, which, you know, was a big thing. That was a big thing for a lot of us, was finally getting, you know, after everything we had been through, getting to the end of it and Homelander being punished, right? And I have a couple of thoughts on that. I really have a couple of strong thoughts on that. And the first thing about it is, I don't feel like his death, I don't feel like there was enough punishment. And I don't mean that in a cruelty sense. I don't mean that in a cruelty sense at all. We all understood Homelander. We knew what Homelander feared the most. And what Homelander loved the most was that he was special, that he was different from everybody else. And the biggest punishment was taking that away from him. Now, in those last moments, before he actually, you know, before Butcher actually kills him, he kind of goes through it, man. Like, we really see him go through it. We really see him begging for mercy, right? He had been reduced to this little sniveling, like, I mean, and instantly, it took you no time to be begging for your life. Like, I mean, if we're even on screen time, it was instantaneous. You lost your power and then you're here, right? You're on your knees and you're begging for your life at this point. And this is really the first time, I would say, in his adulthood that he actually had fear, that he was experiencing real fear. He was actually experiencing what he had so repetitively been doing to people. And I simply, and then within a few moments of that, you know, he's dead. And I mean literally a few moments of that, right? And I know they had a little bit of tussle and fight and all that, and he finally, you know, figured out, you know, what pain and all these things were. But real time, you know, this is a guy who, I don't know how long Homelander had been just like, you know, Ryan was clearly a teenager at this point, right? Ryan was like 18. So who knows how long, I'm sure longer time than that he had been just really, really punishing people, hurting people. So to reduce it down to this period of time, I don't think that was actual justice. I actually don't think that was justice. I think what it came down to was Butcher's revenge. I think what we saw was more Butcher's revenge. And I can't say that Butcher wasn't justified in his revenge. I can't say that. I'm not going to say that Butcher was not justified in his revenge. He was very well justified to want and to take that kind of revenge. The problem is that Butcher isn't a spokesman for all of us, right? And at this point, this mission was supposed to be about more than just your personal feelings. This was a global threat. You know, this was about, you're attacking our very norms, you're attacking our governmental structures, you're attacking our ability to feel safe in our own homes, that we have control of our country. You took away our sovereignty. You made a mockery of our president, our politics, our military force, our judicial system, every single part of it, you dismantled. And it's going to take time to repair those things. That's not an instant fix, right? In most ways, there's going to be a lot of structural damage, literally to the building as well. So there's a lot going on with what Homelander did. So the Butcher effect, essentially, I get my revenge and it's over. It's instant. And it probably felt good for him. And I don't even know if it was good for him. I'm going to be perfectly honest. I don't even know if this is what you really want, what you really want to do for yourself. And I'm gonna insert Becca into this because I do think this matters. I think that when you're fighting for justice for what happened to Becca, I think that Becca's legacy should be a part of it, right? And I think if in that moment, I think when you have the opportunity to take that revenge, what would Becca have said? And I think that she would not have said, do this. She would not have wanted Ryan to have to lose his father. No matter what. And so this was kind of the really odd part, was that after all that was done, when Butcher was, talking to Ryan about them starting fresh, he's like, I don't want to be around you. And he was right to do that. He saw something in Butcher that's like, throughout all this, oh, that picture sucks, can't use that one. Throughout all this, we all have the opportunity to see how bad just fulfilling your own personal wishes really are. But you didn't learn that. Through all that, Butcher got worse. You didn't get better. A lot of times you go through things, it somehow can shape you into being more compassionate, to want to be less like the person that you have so much animosity towards. Instead, you moved further towards being like that person. That's what he would have done. And that's not what Ryan should have wanted to be near. Ryan had been up close and intimate with that type of a man his entire life, or since Homelander came around and then started getting tight with Butcher. So he's used to that kind of man. He's not used to seeing someone who is compassionate and forgiving. Okay. And I think that's important, why he ended up with Mother's Milk, because he needed to see that. In that situation, I think you could not understand that even that Ryan would still love his father. And the only reason I'm pushing on this is he was powerless. At that point, he was powerless. We don't gain anything by not showing mercy in that moment. I know it sounds strange, but it's actually the truth. Like, sometimes you cannot give up your own humanity because of what someone else does, right? Like, you can't allow that to happen. No matter what happens, hang on to your humanity at all costs, right? That's the one thing I would say to everybody. Hang on to your humanity at all costs. Don't let anyone take that part of you away. Because if you allow that part to go away, you never get it back, right? You fundamentally and structurally never get that back once you give into it. So this is where I kind of struggled with what he ultimately did, because I'm thinking this is Becca. She doesn't necessarily want Ryan to have to go without having his father. He never gets to work through any details. He may have come to a better understanding of who his father was, because this is his actual father. So I think, what would Becca have asked him to do in that period there would have been to not seek revenge, to not go full on into your rage, and to pull that part of yourself back, if not for the justice, just for yourself, actually, for yourself, to have that part of you be alive. And she would not have wanted Ryan to have to see his father. You killed Homelander right in front of his son. Ryan wasn't a killer like that. Ryan had not been exposed, so to see your father be killed by the people you had teamed up against him, right? I think Ryan would have been more comfortable with, my father was stopped. I understand why he needed to be stopped, but having taken away all of his powers would have stopped him. Okay, that would have been enough. So Ryan, I think, definitely did the right thing by walking away from Butcher in that standpoint. But the further point is that, Butcher not speaking for us in a large scale. He doesn't speak for the country. He didn't. And I think for a lot of other people, the most righteous thing would have been force him to stand trial, force him to go through the same process that every other human has to go through. Put him in jail, right? Put him in jail. Force him to try to beg for money to make bond. Force him to start eating crappy food. Force him to start being afraid of circumstances like all the rest of us have to be. Force him to sit in front of people and have them talk about who he is and the impact of what he did to their lives. So there was a lot more to be gained, and I feel like that would have given us a lot more as a culture, having gone through this. It wasn't just the boys who went through this. It was everybody. The world was going through this because we all had to collectively say, uh-oh. Well, you know what I'm saying? We didn't know what was going on. We didn't know that, the rest of the world didn't know about he's going to be immortal. We just know that he's here alive and direct, and he's tripping right now. Like, all of a sudden, all the movies and stuff don't make any sense because this is who Homelander really is, and he's messing us up. So that was a large part of giving us the opportunity to kind of build structure back, and seeing him go to jail, seeing him not be more powerful than the government, than we the people, I think really would have mattered. So I think for a lot of reasons, for that reason of kind of restoring public trust, for directly honoring Becca and what she probably would have wanted for Ryan, being conscious of Ryan's own feelings about this, how Ryan's going to feel about seeing his father with a crowbar through his head. He never got a chance to take away that power and stop him, and then have conversations with him and maybe figure out more about who he is. So you took that away from him and then expected him to want to come hang out with you again, which was utterly crazy. So that's kind of what my thought were. I just kind of want to just dip my toe into this. Like, a lot of people have been talking about, what they thought about the boys and the ending and what Homelander should get. I just felt like it wasn't enough. Like, I felt the same way. Oh man, see if I got this image. I felt the same way coming out of Game of Thrones, right? Like, seriously, I felt the same way coming out of Game of Thrones, because I'm like, man, you Cersei Lannistered me, man. You Cersei Lannistered me, man. Instead of giving me a complete ending where I got to see her suffer, I got to see her feel like, man, this is messed up, or I'm messing my life up, or whatever it was. We didn't get that out of Cersei Lannister. And that was something that, for us, justice a lot of times looks like what happened to you in the end. I'm not here to kind of advocate like the cruelty part of it. I don't believe that any of them, even Homelander, I certainly wouldn't have been. He's had enough cruelty treatment in his life. So if the whole idea is that he needs to be treated cruelly, well, he kind of did get that in. He got all the cruelty that he would need to endure heaped on him as a child. So, and so that's kind of the part. And what I think would have been more enlightening would have been, now let him be a normal person, see what that's like. Maybe he would have liked being a person that didn't have powers and didn't have to be experimented on, right? Who didn't have powers, who didn't have these expectations placed on him, who didn't have powers and was just allowed to be regular, whatever that regular would have been. Obviously, you're a mass murderer, but I still think that like I said, Cersei, man, like I really want to see Cersei suffer, man, and we didn't get to see Cersei suffer. She died quickly, didn't really even seem like she was all that afraid, and not for the punishment's sake, not for the cruelty sake of the punishment, but for this is what you actually, more than likely, this is actually what you deserve. This is kind of like, to be held accountable, man. I mean, that's all we're saying. It's just be held 100% accountable for the stuff that you did. And if we don't allow that, we kind of send the wrong message. So that's just kind of where I am with it. Like, I believe that the best punishment for Homelander would have been being a normal person, living a regular life, dealing with pain in the way that we do, and not being able to escape the accountability you've always been able to avoid.